This week on Arizona Illustrated, Michele's journey, motherhood, and incarceration.
So if you're a mother, could you guys raise your hand for me?
They're not going to believe that you can change, but you have to believe that you can change.
Ansel Adams celebrating the photographer.
Why he's still relevant is because his ideas and his conversations and the inquiry that he was interested in is lasting.
Forming the Formless, the puppet maker.
It serves a very almost ritualistic, even spiritual function. The puppet can do something that a human actor can't.
And an Arizona profile. Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. We all make mistakes in life. Sometimes those mistakes have a serious and life-altering impact on the lives of those around us. For parents who are incarcerated, this is especially true. Michele Keller is the mother of 5. Her addiction led her to prison and changed the course of her life. This is her story from producer Heather Gray.
But also show the faith community that this is something that's truly needed in the church as well as in the general community.
So Gwen, can you put the pencils out and make sure you count them for security reasons?
Okay, I will.
Thank you. This is the name your group. Hi, this is Michele, and I am in the GED room. If you could let the ladies know that we're here. Thank you. Bye. Come on in, guys. All right, hi everybody. My name is Michele, and I am from the U of A Camp Wellness program. I've been incarcerated 3 times. My last time getting out of prison was back in 2007. I have 12 and a half years clean and sober after a 23-year addiction. In 1996, I caught a possession case. I got out of jail, went to a treatment center. I was only there briefly because I ended up just leaving and relapsing, of course. I got out in 1998. In fact, when I went in pregnant. And I had my son in prison, my 3rd child in prison. Ended up relapsing, ended up getting pregnant again. So it was off and on, going in and out. So if you're a mother, could you guys raise your hand for me? I just need to know how many of you are mothers. Everybody, all but one? I have 5 kids, and 4 of my kids went through my addiction with me. It was very hard as a mother. I would always write my kids. My mom would always send them money for me, from me, for their birthdays. It was very difficult because when your kids don't want to be a part of your life, and you can understand. It was difficult, it was hurtful to understand. But I could also understand being embarrassed that their mother was in prison or their mother was a drug addict. So I could totally understand why they wouldn't want that connection. And that was one of the hardest things for me to hear. My own kids say they hated me, they were angry with me, being embarrassed. And then I have my 8-year-old whom I have sole legal custody of. She's about as tall as me now. And I'm so proud of you, you did good. Yay, I'm proud of you. Trinity is an amazing little girl. She has a spirit about her that's just so loving. I'm really blessed to have her in my life today. So in a way it's kind of sad because I didn't get that bond with my other kids. I mean, I had some of it, but it wasn't like the bond that Trinity and I have. I didn't get that with like Patrick, Gabby, Michael, and JJ. I didn't get that with them. And I can't make up for my past. Hi, how are you? Good. We 2 pedicures? Okay, sure. We're regaining a relationship together, all my other kids. And I think with Trinity, it's just a blessing that I'm able to do and be a mother today to her. I'm glad that I'm getting this time with her. I mean, I can't say I'm sorry enough to them. My mother never knew how to handle it. She didn't understand it. She did the best she could with what she kind of knew. When she passed away, I didn't know how to handle it. I just remember them wheeling her out and her and I saying, "I love you." And that was like the last time I saw her because I couldn't go into hospice to see her. Yeah. I always say that her death brought me life. It was time for me to grow up, and it was time for me to stop doing what I was doing. I had to go through what I have to go through to get to where I need to be. I had to go through this 23 years of craziness. Now I just want to help anybody that wants to change their life, anybody that wants to walk away from the streets and the addiction. Deep breath in. My full-time job, I work at the U of A RISE Camp Wellness program, and that's with people in behavioral health. So I reach out to help them, helping with the life skills and the coping skills. Even people in the streets when they're getting high or not with a mental illness, they don't know how to cook, so we teach people how to cook. We teach people how to buy healthier food, to work out, exercise, to love themselves. I'm also part of the Safety and Justice Community Collaborative, which is trying to find a way to lower our criminal justice system. This last time incarceration, they told me you're a 3-time loser and you will never amount to anything. And I just remember thinking, you're wrong. I'm going to be somebody. And it was that day that I sat down and I started putting things together in my life. What did I really want to do? I think I started with a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. 1 month was, of course, getting out, doing parole, doing the right thing, looking for a job. 6 months being in my own place, and at 10 years, I wanted my home. So what ended up happening was I got out in 2007, and within 3 years, I had a car of that year, and my first home was built from the ground up. And then in 5 years, I got another car. And then in 10 years, my second home was built from the ground up. So I now own 2 homes.
And 2 cars.
And 2 cars, yeah. So today my life is totally different. Today I choose to advocate and try and help those getting out, trying to help them the best way that I can, and knowing that they don't have to continue on that path. I work for the state. I no longer live for the state. And for a total blessing, I am a foster mother of 4.
Hi, my baby. What are you doing? Just kiss. Love you.
Depending on what day it is, I'm switching vehicles every now and again. Yeah.
Really, really big, like a giant dinosaur. Wow.
I wanted to help people. I also wanted to give back. And that's why I'm a foster parent today. It's a way of giving back. Somebody was there for my kids. It's time for me to be there for somebody else's kids. It means a lot to me that I'm able to take care of them. Just recently, January 11th, which is my daughter's birthday, my daughter Gabby's birthday, the rights were severed from the parents. And so I will be looking to adopt my 2-year-old. In fact, today, the case should be going to the adoption unit. My struggle, it's real, and so I get it. I know that a lot of people, when they get out, it's like it's hard, and everybody just sees me as an ex-con or an ex-felon, and I always think that it's how you present yourself to others. Yes, you're going to have doors that are going to close on you, and you're going to feel like you're boxed in. You're going to feel like you're losing it. You're just going to want to scream. You're going to feel like I just give up. But I always suggest to anybody, don't give up, because it is hard, and people are going to look at you. They're going to down you. They're not going to believe that you can change. But you have to believe that you can change. I knew that I could change. I knew that I wasn't that person that I used to be.
Ansel Adams was best known for his striking black and white images of natural landscapes in the American West. The Center for Creative Photography, where his life's work is housed, was founded by Adams and then U of A President John Schaefer in 1975. Last year, the CCP celebrated the legendary photographer's birthday, and it was such a big hit that it'll now be an annual event. The CCP's new director, Ann Breckenridge Barrett, comes to Tucson from the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago. She says she's humbled by the appointment and inspired by the opportunity.
I was a photography major at NYU. I heard that there's this place where photography is studied. It's kind of hallowed ground. I've worked in museums around the country. I wanted to come here because I was fascinated by the fact that there is something here that you can't get anywhere else in the world, to be truly honest.
The center purchased a small portion of Adams' work. Much of it was donated in hopes that other artists would follow his lead. They did. Adams kept with him many of his negatives and much of his correspondence, memorabilia, and work prints in order to complete his work. Now all of that material will be gradually transferred to the center, and in his will he left even more to the University of Arizona.
This exhibition is one that we can offer that other institutions can't because of our holdings. And I think that's, A, that's what's exciting. B, this helps tell our story. You know, our founder was Ansel Adams. Dr. Schaefer and Ansel Adams had a vision for what this institution would be. Ansel wanted it not just to be about him. He wanted this place to be a place where the study of photography is enduring and inquiry into its cultural influence and impact is ongoing.
As a photographer, I believe that creative photography, when practiced in terms of its inherent qualities, may also reveal endless horizons of meaning.
Here you've got the lenses that he used to shoot him climbing Half Dome, and then the result, it's pretty extraordinary. This is photographs of the loyal Japanese Americans at Manzanar Relocation Center by Ansel Adams. I mean, he was deeply invested in telling those stories. You dive deep into our archive and his history, and you know, he was an environmentalist. He was very attuned to social justice and using the camera to not only take beautiful pictures, but to bear witness. And I think that's an incredible part of his story. And we're able to show that.
I was born in San Francisco, February the 20th, 1902.
Yeah, it's going.
The whole weekend was a celebration of him, his legacy, his influence. And we were packed. We had 700 people roaming around in these exhibition spaces in our auditorium and upstairs. I think he's relevant because all through the canon of art history, you've got folks that change the narrative. And he was part of that movement, you know. He was someone who was dedicated to the medium, but he wasn't against it morphing and growing. Ansel Adams, 20 years before digital was even on the radar, anticipated it. He knew the medium was going to change.
Probably we'll see in a relatively short time the emergence of electronic image. And when I say that, a lot of people say, God forbid, that's the end of creative photography. It's all going to be mechanized. And of course, that's absolutely, I think, untrue. I think it'll give a vastly greater control than we have now.
We have this dialogue today. If he was around, would he use his cell phone? Of course he would. That's what I think. You embrace the digital world. You have to participate in it. Cultural institutions have to participate in it and be active players in order to encourage the narrative. The Center for Creative Photography can be that place to posit the questions, to have the provocative conversations about our past and where we're going, visual literacy, saturation of imagery.
Oh, wow, now this is what I want to make.
Ansel was prolific on all of those subjects. When I look at these and I think about what he was doing in the darkroom and the burning and the dodging and his choices, I mean, it's just, and he's just such a master. that you see the gradations, you see the texture, you move here, you have more subtlety. You keep going, the blacks are rich, and you know, you start asking yourself, well, which one do you prefer? Which one did he prefer, and why? Each one of these on their own is stunning, but together they tell the story of how his technique was so important and is a teaching tool going forward. That's the best part of my job, because I get to do this and walk around and just to be excited by the content and be impressed on a daily basis that it's here. As a region, we have a jewel here. As a state, we have a jewel. I mean, we have the canon of North American photography. It's known in the scholarly community, it's known in the artistic community, it's known in the photography community. It needs to be known in our state and our region as well.
Like what you see on Arizona Illustrated? Visit our webpage at azpm.org to watch and share videos from this episode. And you'll find everything you need to stay connected with public broadcasting in Southern Arizona. azpm.org. She left the hustle and bustle of LA and settled in a quiet farmhouse in Tubac, Arizona. Artist and filmmaker Genevieve Anderson has not followed a traditional career path. Her work explores themes of loneliness and compassion, reflecting her fascination with the human interior.
I wanted to leave LA. I was ready to leave LA. Living in a city, there's all this kind of ambient stuff going on all the time. Whether or not you're doing anything, you feel like you're a part of it. You feel like, oh, I'm busy. So I moved to Tubac, Arizona, to be close to my family. I moved with my son, who's 8 years old, and we live on an 8-acre farmhouse. Part of me that felt stripped bare in the city, based on what I was going through personally, but also just living in a city for so long. All of that was addressed coming here. It's a really nourishing thing to be in this environment. That said, it's lonely. It's been very lonely. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean the way in which you really confront yourself. My name is Genevieve Anderson. I'm an artist, director, and a filmmaker. I come to it first as a filmmaker and secondarily as a person interested in puppets. I'm actually not even a puppeteer. I have some very, very primal feeling about diminutive things, small things, and it touched that feeling I had when I was a child of magic coming out of small spaces. In American culture, historically, we really don't have a tradition of puppetry here. Our tradition is Topo Gigio, it's the Thunderbirds, it's the Muppets. You know, I was a huge fan of the Muppets, but puppets that I'm working with and what I'm endeavoring to do with the puppets has very little reference in the United States. It comes more from, I guess, in a European tradition. It serves a very almost ritualistic, even spiritual function. The puppet can do something that a human actor can't. It isn't sullied by having a human experience. It's completely neutral. So in that sense, it's a very powerful tool.
For 35 years, I've been a book crusher. And this is my love story. For 35 years, books have taught me that the heavens are not humane. Neither the heavens nor any man with a head on his shoulders. It's not that men don't wish to be humane. It just goes against common sense. And anyone who crushes books for a living is no more humane than the heavens. But somebody's got to do it.
The reason to do Too Loud of Solitude with puppets and animation is because we spend very little time in the material realm. Which is a book crusher in a basement crushing books. Book crusher on the street going to the bar, book crusher in the bar.
I've drunk so much beer over the past 35 years. I could fill an Olympic-sized pool, an entire fish hatchery.
The rest of the time, it's his imagination.
I don't really read. I pop a sentence into my mouth, and I suck it like a fruit drop.
Many people say that Too Loud of Solitude is autobiographical. So I'm starting creating the character from that.
For 35 years, I've been alone in this basement. Alone except for the excellent company I find here.
Paul Giamatti, he knew the book well, and that's sort of the platform that I used to ask him, like, we're doing this adaptation of the book in puppets. Would you be interested? And he said yes. I did think about him when building the puppet because the voice is so integral.
Such wisdom as I have comes to me unwittingly. And I look on my brain as a mass of hydraulically compacted ideas.
So I should say, too, that there are two camps of people. When they see this, they go, Paul, he's an American. You know, you've got this extremely Czech character, and then you've got a well-known American actor with an American accent reading the language of this Czech author. And then you've got people who are like, oh, he's great, God, his voice, it's so wonderful, it's perfect. The amazing thing about him has been that he has stayed on board. There's been all these starts and stops, and he's been like, right there with you. How's it going? You know, he's such a champion of the project. You do all of this work, you set all of these things up in the hopes that there'll be a gesture, like a way that something moves, or a look, or something that opens up this space where something magic comes through. You know, there are moments in Too Loud of Solitude, like one or two, where I'm like, oh, there it is. I make things as an effort to find something or to give form to something that is formless. So when you commit a formless idea to a form, it's disappointing. I'll do the molding of the figure because I feel like that's really important to have something that's my aesthetic. But then I will hand these things off to people who are good at making the molds, or people who can make the puppets and who can do the flocking and the painting and the wardrobe. So I hire people to help in that capacity for sure. The next level for me, artistically, is to create the full feature film of Too Loud of Solitude. We created 17 minutes that we finished in 2007. And then life intervened, and years went by, and now we're picking it up again. The work that I do is rooted in a desire to understand myself better spiritually, and to understand what we're here to do. And I think that you can only really get centered in an approach to those questions when you're lonely. It's really hard to address those things when there's a lot of noise and chaos in your life. So being quiet, being reverent, being grateful, all of those things have provided a great grounding pad for me to go back into the work.
Steve Kozachik has been working in the athletics department at the University of Arizona since 1988. He was elected to the City Council in 2009, representing Ward 6, a position he's won twice since. For Kozachik, each day starts before the sun comes up.
People have asked multiple times since I started doing this job in the council back in 2009 whether I can come and meet them for their breakfast meeting, and the answer is no. That's my inviolate time. I'm out of bed, out the door, and I put in 10 to 15 miles every morning, and then the day starts. So we have an IGA on consent tonight, and essentially the IGA stipulates a few things. One is that any property that Rio Nuevo may become involved with needs to be publicly owned first.
Councilman Kozachik mentioned we've had an extensive dialogue with
I'm on campus, and then I'm either at a council meeting, or in the evenings I'm at the council office or at meetings.
Pick the house up and move it back for a few $100,000.
Real quickly, so thank you very much for the presentation. I deal with designers and planners and architects all the time, and I'm used to. There's an old African proverb that when the sun comes up, If you're a lion, you better be able to run faster than the slowest gazelle or you'll starve. If you're a gazelle, you better be able to outrun the fastest lion or you'll get eaten. So when the sun comes up, you better be running, whether you're a lion or a gazelle. That's me, first thing in the morning out the door, man. You know, I see a lot of coyotes and sometimes some javelina and people with their puppies walking along. They're always fun to stop and pet and play with. I think about the day, and I wear a fanny pack with a notepad in it, and if something pops into my head that I don't want to forget, I write it down and keep running. So, you know, just lots of things go through your head when you're out on your own. I was in my mid-30s, and at the time my wife was jogging with a girlfriend of hers and did this ungodly thing of running a 10K. And I said to her one day, "You can't run 6 miles without stopping." My idea of a run was 90 feet from one end of a basketball court to the other. She in fact did it and then humiliated me into starting it by telling me my butt was getting fat, and so I better start doing it myself. Long story short, since then I've run dozens and dozens of marathons. I've run across the state of Colorado, 350-something miles. I've run over 100 miles several times as well. So it's now just a kind of part of who I am. It's really not a competitive thing anymore. I gave that up a long time ago. I was hit by a car and had some muscles severed. At the time I was running for speed, running marathons. Now it's long, slow distance. If I try and sprint and really stride out, then I'll just pull a muscle or something. So it's mental time. It's not really the physical piece of it for me. From the time I'm done with my run in the morning to the time I get home at night, usually 10:30 at night, that's really the only time I've got just for my own time. Before I leave the ward office every night, I spend a little time on the guitar and sort of calm down again at the end of the day.
Something in the way she knows, and all I have to do is think of her.
You've got to have that place for your space. You've got to have that place in your life where it's just your time, whether it's music, whether it's exercise or running, whether it's macrame or whatever people do. But you need to carve that piece of your day out that's just for you, where other people kind of aren't grabbing at you and saying, "I need you for this, I need you for that."
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.